Hey guys, I'm Emma and I'm telling you like it is, with a bit of sarcasm and a whole lot of exaggeration. So if you guys like this video, please take 5 seconds to subscribe to my YouTube channel because, well, 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of views equals to me starting to make money on YouTube, which would be amazing. So, moments I didn't understand humans. Not that I didn't understand what they were saying, but I just couldn't believe what they were saying. To think I thought some of these topped the limit of the unbelievable and then something else happened and it managed to top that? So now, in all its glory, 6 times I didn't understand humans. 1. The weirdo client. I call him a weirdo because no normal person would have reacted the way he did. So there I was, 16, working as a cashier ringing up customers at a made-to-measure curtain and blind store. A man in his 30s walks up to the cash and I ask him for his name and number. He looks at me, he looks at his wife, he looks at me, he looks at his wife, he smirks at me, and then he writes his coordinates on the paper. Finally, I clue into his thought process and I snapped, saying, "That's for the bill." Alright, so this is what I don't get in all of this. How many teenage girls does he know that are brazen enough to pick up a man by flat out asking for his name and number in front of their wife? Also, who in their right mind would try to cheat in front of their wife? Plus, what delusions of grandeur must you have so that is your first thought? In a store that makes products to measure, so you most definitely need a callback when your stuff is ready? Seriously. 2. The lemonade machine. So, I used to go to a camp when I was younger where I got to hang out in a historical village and pretend I was a kid of the time. Now, I have a secret for some of you. Those places aren't actually real. No, people don't live there 24/7. Yes, I do know what a camera is. No, I won't show you what's under my skirt because that's inappropriate in any century. The first time I got asked that, I stared at that male visitor open-mouthed. The lady beside me just lifted a part of her skirts and showed him the layers. Come on, get your minds out of the gutter, people. Now, at one time, my fake mom asked me to go to the cellar to make lemonade while she was talking with a tourist. I went, opening the cellar door behind the corded off section, and went down the steps to step into AC land, complete with a fridge, a water cooler, and standalone freezer. You know, the works. I grabbed a can of lemonade out of the freezer, grabbed an appropriate jug, and made it up per the instructions. When I brought it back up, the same visitor, who still had questions apparently, turned to me and commented, "Wow, that took you no time at all." Without skipping a beat, I replied, "Of course, I'm a master at pressing lemons." And the visitor actually looked like she believed me. Now, 1, that would have been physically impossible, and 2, didn't she see how cold the lemonade was? Like, that would have been almost impossible to achieve at that time, especially since even if the lemons had been refrigerated, they wouldn't have made lemonade the consistency of slush. And 3, why in the world would I have done that all alone in the basement? All that extra effort should have been witnessed for touristic purposes and immortalized into pixels. Obviously. 3. Magpie child. And no, this isn't a magpie baby bird. This is a real human child with real issues that then caused me some issues. So, I will always remember my worst work day. I was a supervisor at an amusement park for kids. It was Christmas break, the time of year when it gets too cold to let your child play outside all day, and where parents everywhere think that they are the only ones with the brilliant idea of bringing their child to an indoor amusement center. So, imagine this: 200 pushing, wired children, 300 disgruntled parents, and 30 staff members. That dropped to 29 when one of the staff members fainted. So, I had to call an ambulance to get her to the hospital, plus section off a part of the amusement center to keep her safe from the crush of humans. Some parents were supportive, others irate, and the children were just oblivious to it all. Now, as I was busy with all that, of course an employee came over to tell me that a parent had a complaint to make. I asked the employee if they could either deal with it or tell this parent that they would have to wait, as I had my hands full. The employee left and then came back and said that they didn't want to wait. thinking to myself that this better be good, and secretly hoping it wasn't, I had the employee take my post of shielding our fallen colleague, and I went to deal with this new issue. So, this lady needed me. Absolutely. Because her 5-year-old son had found a screw and put it in his mouth. Now, I tried to be understanding, apologetic, and reasonable with her, but she wouldn't hear me out because she was a hysterical parent. But then again, let's dissect this situation. 1, she started off by criticizing me for taking care of an employee going to the hospital over her son. All right. Only in the mind of a hysterical mom could her uninjured son come before unconscious person. Seriously. Then I tried to explain to her that, 2, buildings aren't made with tape or glue. A screw is bound to happen. Heck, this whole thing could have easily happened at her own home. 3, it's not my fault your kid put stuff in their mouth that they aren't supposed to. 4, it's obvious that we don't have enough staff to parent and supervise every single child. Besides, the rules say that you're responsible of monitoring your own child. And look, you chose to have them, not us. Oops, was that a little too honest? I'll just keep going. And this lady was also complaining that her child kept finding coins in the ball pool pit, and that we really should clean it more often. So, here's another list, just off of that insane comment. 1, we do clean it often enough. Not my fault that adults carry change in their pockets and that ball pool pits are magnets for that kind of stuff. 2, why are you complaining about free money? Your child is a magpie. Straight up. And all this happens before lunchtime. And no, my fun didn't end there. I then had a child bleeding from the head to deal with. Thank goodness that parent was reasonable. She was concerned, yes, but she appreciated that I had the patience and the wherewithal to bandage her son. Look, if there is a moral to this story, it's this. Please, parents, use logic. Don't wait 30 minutes in line and expect the place not to be crazy busy. And if your child does get hurt, act in your child's best interest. Don't bite the head off of the person who's trying to assist you. Please. 4, dumb blonde. All right, I really hate this stereotype because I've always been a blonde and I've never been dumb. Well, I can do an occasionally dumb thing, but no more than the normal average human, if such a thing exists. But that's not the point. The point is, this is a very offensive story that happened to me, and that's not okay. So, I was volunteering at this fair trade store. Now, they were having a special summer sale, and they had a band playing for the occasion. At one point, one of the band members approached me and asked me, point blank, "How do you live being so dumb?" I was actually dumbfounded for a few solid moments. When I did then try to challenge him, he continued to quote the dumb blonde rhetoric. Are you going to be able to pass high school? Do you find it hard to live in society? Do you have a career plan of some sort? But he really actually believed it. He was even concerned for me. There was a lady beside me, and she was just as confused. I think she was arguably more confused than I was. When he finally let us be, she was even apologetic for his behavior and even doubted that any of that had just happened. You know it's bad when someone feels the need to apologize for something they aren't even responsible for. And how did I feel? Well, I was very shocked, very offended, and very, very confused. 5, the cheating husband. Well, this one is not only accepting to be flirted with, but is also very much deliberately cheating. However, he was seeing my friend, a social worker, for a very specific reason. Now, he doesn't want help to stop cheating. Oh no. He wants to not feel guilty while cheating, because the guilt was making him feel bad, and that was the real issue. He even started hitting on my friend. In the end, she said that there wasn't anything she could do for him. I told her she should have just used her magic social worker wand. Jeez, poor guy. Feeling valid feelings. Oh no. 6, stapler or butt. Weird choice, I know. But hey, this actually relates to the story I just told. So, there I was, working in a store as a part-time summer job. I was working for a very religious, very morally honest manager. And how is this relevant, you might be wondering? Well, this will soon become quite clear, let me tell you. We had these cubbies near the cash register that held all kinds of office supplies. I was standing at the cash when my manager reached into one of the cubbies for the stapler. Instead, he grabbed my butt. And he held on, and on, and on, and on until my shock wore off, and I finally just turned to him with a look of, okay, you can let go now. Which is when I found out that he was not only blushing, but slowly turning purple. He then scampered away. No words. Nothing. Later, the incident mostly forgotten in my mind, I went to his office to talk to him about a report. I asked, like I usually do, if he wanted me to close the door. And then words just spewed out of his mouth. I am a married man with a lovely wife, with 3 kids that I deeply love. I am a faithful man who loves his family, and on and on and on it went until I snapped him out of it with a, yeah, I know that, and distracted him with the report. To this day, I can't believe 17-year-old me was less flustered than he was in this situation, but hey, he most definitely was. So, am I really sad that some of these weird things have happened to me? Not really, because they make for really good stories, which I then get to share with you guys. So, share this video with your friends and like and subscribe and comment. And did I forget anything? Nope, I don't think so. Wait, tell me below, what weird human encounter have you guys experienced? Sometimes against your will and always against the logical order of things. Thanks, guys.